Okay, and you're on the cloud recording now. So today we're just going to kind of do a potpourri, cover a potpourri of things. And as you know, I don't usually do that. I usually like to be a little bit more specific, pick a topic, dive into the topic, cover the topic. But I feel like there's just a few things, given what's going on in real estate, that we kind of need to cover. Most of these things are the topics that I'm picking have been generated from conversations with some of you throughout the week. Um, and they're coming up over and over and over again. So we kind of need to cover it. I want to be able to give you some answers for situations that I think are going to start to happen a lot more frequently. I want to be able to discuss it. And if you've got other things that are coming up for you that you kind of want to get some input on or get some help with, let's bring that to the table too. Um, Number one, um, when things stay tough, and by the way, you probably have noticed, but if you haven't, things are tough, okay? And they have been tough for a couple of years, and they're tough again, and they're probably going to stay tough for a little bit. But when things start to get tough, and we get the opportunity to work with a client, okay, we suddenly find ourselves being much more accommodating and trying much harder to really help these clients because, we're trying to lock in every bit of business that we can. We probably have more time than we usually do because we're not working with as many clients. Okay. And we really want to take care of them. So the motivation for this stuff comes from a really good place. We want to serve people at a higher level. We want to do a good job. And that can get us in trouble. Let me give you an example. All right. We'll use a couple examples. One agent currently has a listing um, that's tenant occupied. Okay. And the main concern with the person buying the listing is that it be delivered vacant. Right. Tenant's been there for a long time. Tenant doesn't want to leave. All right. So now there's going to be this process to remove the tenant. Okay. Agent wants to help with that. Agent wants to assist the seller to do a good job, to be a fiduciary and help with that process. And he absolutely should not and cannot. Okay. That's a landlord seller issue. Doesn't have or landlord tenant issue, the landlord being the seller. It's got nothing to do with the agent. It can't have anything to do with the agent. We're not insured for that. Okay. And as much as we might want to help that person and help facilitate that stuff, our involvement doesn't make any sense because we don't have a contract with the tenant. We don't know anything about the tenancy. Okay, we don't have the insurance to process an eviction. We can't do that. All right, so that's one situation. Another situation, another agent, another listing. Be careful. I'm going to start talking about you, Joni. Don't wreck the car. I can see you're driving. Um, Joni's got a listing way out perimeter, and if you've been around here for a while, you know what that means. Okay, like Camp Far West perimeter, deep, deep, deep. What? We need a bar brawl instant. Oh, Chad. Oh boy. Um, and to make a long story short, there's been all kinds of issues with the listing, and now we believe. I don't know what's transpired since Joni and I last talked, but we believe that there's a squatter in the building that's in the process of not just living in the building, but also stripping anything of value out of the building so they can take it out and sell it. Okay. How this came to light was an agent wanted to show the property, started texting Joni. He had access issues, finally got in the property. Notice that there was evidence of somebody living in the property. Notice that there was evidence of somebody stripping the property down. Agent did what any agent would do. That was tell the listing agent what's going on, right? So he called or texted Joni, I'm not sure which one, said, "Hey, this is happening." What do you think Joni's instinct was? Joni's instinct was, I got to get out there and see what's going on, right? I got to make sure that the property's secure. I got to make sure that it's protected. I got to do a good job for the seller. Absolutely not. Okay. That is not a Joni problem. That is a Nevada County Sheriff's problem. Okay. Even though her instinct is to go out, see what's going on, and get a handle on the situation, it's dangerous to do so. Okay. That's not in the listing agreement. There's no clause in the listing agreement that says part of my fiduciary duty to you is to become a criminal investigator and put myself in harm's way to protect your property. It's not in there. Okay. So those are two kind of extremes, all right, that have come up. And I mean, I talked to Joni about this. I haven't seen a house stripped in a long time. Back in 2010, when I did a bunch of foreclosure work, that was like a common thing. All right. And I would have to go out there because I worked for a bank, all right, or several banks, and the banks were like, it's your deal. Go out and find out what's going on, coordinate maintenance, secure the property, make sure there's no squatters in it, contact law enforcement if you need to. That's part of my job. That was in my agreement. But also in my truck was a gun or two. Okay. So we're not there. We don't do that. All right. That was a different time, different place with different laws. We don't do that now. But in the middle of all those extremes, there's a lot of other little things. Okay, a lot of other little things. And we start to blur the lines or cross the lines, right? Brianna just popped on screen. I'll give you another example. Had a house in escrow, client did the inspections, doozy of a list of things. I mean, this was a big dog. There was a lot of findings on these inspections. Who do you think the client asked for an opinion on the inspections? The agent, right? I've got all these inspections. What do you think? We want to respond, right? We want to help. We want to provide information. When I first joined NextHome, there was a guy that was part of the founding group that has since retired from the company. But this dude was amazing. Really was. He was one of Keller Williams' biggest agents on the West Coast for years and years and years and years and years. He made his name in the foreclosure period too, right? I think he processed something like 3,000 homes. Okay, so he did a lot of business. He said something to me when we were talking about something. I don't recall what it was, but he said something to me when we were talking back and forth, and he said, "You need to stop, and I need you to hear me and remember this one thing. You, Damien, as a real estate agent, are not an expert on anything. Okay? You're not an expert on anything." Now, keep in mind, he knew my entire history. Okay? He knew I was a home builder. He knew I was a contractor. He knew that I processed not as many foreclosures as him, but a bunch. All right? He knew that I knew all about all that stuff. He knew I had this big, huge knowledge base that a lot of real estate agents don't have, and that's not bragging, that's just a fact. Okay? And he said to me, when you're wearing your real estate agent hat, you are not an expert on anything. You're not a home builder. Okay. You're not an ex foreclosure guy. You're not any of that stuff. You're an agent. You're an expert of pointing to the expert. That's how you keep yourself out of trouble. That's how you keep yourself from blurring lines. That's how you keep your fiduciary duty intact. Because think about this, guys, and it can happen very innocently, right? Let me give you an example. You have a client in escrow, you have a buyer, a client in escrow to buy a house, you do a pest inspection, and it comes back with $1,500 in section one findings. Everybody with me? And the client says to you, well, what do you think about the pest report? I do this all the time. I blow it all the time. And I go, yeah, I mean, looks pretty good. 1,500 bucks in section one. That's pretty minor. Like that's a pretty clean report. I do that. You do that. I know you do that. I've heard you do that, right? Now, 99.99% of the time, it's okay. That works out. But imagine this. I say, yeah, that's a pretty clean report. It looks pretty good to get 1,500 bucks in findings. I mean, hell, we find more than that all the time. That's not bad. And they close escrow and then they go and they decide to have the section one fixed. And the section one was there's a piece of corner trim on the outside of the building that's got some dry rot at the bottom, right? Common finding. The solution from the pest company was we're going to cut up 4 feet, we're going to remove the bad stuff, and we're going to put new trim on it. It's going to be great. 1,500 bucks. Sounds like a good plan. Escrow closes, they hire the pest company to come out or another contractor to come out. That contractor comes out, cuts up 4 feet, pulls it off, and finds a whole corner of the building rotted out. Now what? I'll tell you what. Now you have a huge, huge problem, right? And Damien, with all of his great contractor knowledge and all of his great real estate experience, told his client, yeah, it's a pretty good report. Looks pretty good. I mean, the one I did last week had 7 grand in section one. This is great. Okay. This is what I talk about. The slower things get and the harder the economy gets, the more helpful we want to be. Okay. And it can get us in real trouble. We want to help with tenants. We want to help with inspections. We want to help with securing the property. We want to do all this stuff. I need you to spend some time thinking about what is my job? What have I committed to do for this client? What is my responsibility to this client? And then make darn sure that you exceed expectations within that framework, right? And anytime a question or an issue comes up outside of that framework that involves any kind of expertise that is not the expertise of a real estate agent, you redirect, you point, you show them how to get the answer from the quote unquote specialist or professional. Okay. You can provide information. Well, this is an excellent tenant law attorney in Placer County. Give them a call. Okay. Well, um, this is the Nevada County Sheriff and also the best fencing company in Nevada County. Give them a call. Let me know what happened. Right? Well, I'm not really sure. I suggest you contact the pest inspector and have a direct conversation with them about that finding. See what they have to say. A listing I have in escrow, the agent texted me today. Hey, I don't understand how they corrected the well problem. Can you tell me what they did to get a clear well report? I know exactly what they did. Okay, I know. He told me. And I said, I'm not 100% sure. You better call the well company direct. Get the answer that you're looking for. Right? I didn't want to say that. You know what I wanted to say? They treated it for coliform, waited 24 hours, came back, took another water sample, and it was clear. That's what I wanted to say. Moving on, right? Next. Nope, can't do that. And that's an agent. That's not even a client. That's an agent. So be the expert of finding the expert, be the expert of directing to the expert. Be very, very careful about what's the word? It's gone. Be very, very careful about giving definitive answers or definitive advice. Okay? Unless it falls completely within the purview of a real estate agent. Explain this disclosure to me. Yep. right? Explain my contractual exposure if I decide not to remove my contingencies. Yep. Okay. Absolutely. Explain my options for how to proceed after we have our inspection results. Yep. Okay. Not a problem. Explain to me what's involved in a home inspection. Nope. Okay. Talk to the home inspector. They will tell you exactly what they do. We had this finding with the septic system. Is that a big deal? I don't know. Even though I do, I don't know. Okay? Talk to the septic company. All right? Clear? Questions, thoughts, situations that you might not know. Should I help? Should I not help? Then we'll move on. Can't see you guys. Okay. Yeah, brain's not working. All right. Why did I say we're going to talk about selling new homes? Well, I said that because if you watch the news, you'll realize that we still have an inventory shortage. All right. But now, also, what we have recently is a retracting number of sellers, right? So, a few months ago, we were like, "Hey, this is great. We've got a growing number of sellers. This is fun time. This is good times, right?" No, that number's starting to retract now. And again, I'll qualify everything by saying this. Those are national numbers or statewide numbers. All of our markets, all of our primary markets do much better than the national average and do much better than the state average. We're not in the same situation as they are nationally. Okay. So whoever watches me on the internet that doesn't trust me and wants to repost it and say this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Yeah, I do. All right. But even in Placer, Sacramento, Nevada, Yuba, Sutter, El Dorado counties, there is a retracting number of sellers. Okay. What's not retracting is the number of units of new homes that are available. Uh, so when you have a steady or rising demand in buyer activity and a retracting number of sellers, all of a sudden new homes become more attractive. Not to mention, new home builders are not as susceptible to rate increases because they can offer rate deals because they do their mortgages in-house, right? So if you go to KB Home and you say, "Hey, I like your house," and they're like, "Yeah, well, you should use our lender too, because if you do, we'll give you a 4.99 rate for 30 years." You go, "Yeah, that sounds pretty good," right? So the new home situation comes up more and more as inventory retracts. Plus, there's a lot of people that like new homes. Now, new home builders are funny. Okay, when things are really, really good and sales are really, really good, they don't need us and they don't want us. All right. And what I mean by that is they don't offer all the time cooperative, I don't even know if I can say this anymore. I'll call it referrals. They don't offer referral fees to outside real estate agents for bringing a client to the subdivision. Not all the time. They do now. Most of them do now because, business isn't that great and they need us. They want us to bring their people in. But what you've got to understand is there are some rules about selling a new house if you want to get paid. Okay? The first thing that I would do if I had a buyer client is I would question whether or not they were interested in looking or planned on looking at new construction homes. Okay, if they say hell no, absolutely not, then just ignore what everything I'm about to say. If they say, I don't know, maybe, the first thing you need to do is tell them, look, we're not currently doing that now. If you ever decide to do that, if you ever decide to go look in a subdivision, you need to take me with you. Okay? Because almost every builder that I'm aware of has this rule first and foremost. If you, an outside agent, want to be paid for selling one of our houses, you have to accompany the client to the subdivision the first time that they visit, and you have to register them. Okay. If you don't do that, you're not getting paid, right? Now, the way that you know this is, or excuse me, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. If your client goes to a subdivision without you, okay, and they walk into the sales office, which they'll have to, they will register them when they get there. The home builder will register them when they get there, okay? I don't know what words they use, but everybody signs name, email, address. The home builder is not going to ask them, hey, are you working with a real estate agent? No, they'll glaze right over it. Okay. And here's what happens. They go and they look, they register, you're not there. They go and they look, they register, they look around, they go have a Sunday, and then they call you on Monday and tell you that they went new home shopping in West Roseville, right, over the weekend, and they found one that they really, really liked. And you're like, sweet, let's do this. You try to register your client with KB Home, which is where they went, and the KB Home rep says, "Oh, sorry, they're already registered. You're out." Okay? You're out. Don't even try. You're just out. It's over. Okay? So have the conversation early. Let them know that if they're going to go look around, they have to register with you, and then you're in the loop. Okay? Then you're in the loop. Now, let me tell you what happens next. Let's say you registered them. Okay. You're registered as their agent. So if they decide to buy one of these houses, you're going to get a referral fee. All right. And it's going to be great. And they decide, you know what? We want to buy lot 15. We want to buy that house. We decided. Great. They will contract directly with the builder. Okay. You'll be named on a separate agreement that talks about how we get paid that referral fee. But essentially, they will contract directly with the builder, not like a typical real estate transaction where it's broker, broker, client, client. Okay. It's in a new construction, it's client, builder, period. All right. You'll get a copy of the contract. You'll call me or text me and say, hey, one of my clients is in contract on a brand new house here, and you're going to send me the contract. Okay. I'll go through it. I'll look. We'll probably have some kind of blanket addendum that we make your client sign that basically says, whether you know it or not, you're in direct contract with the builder. They don't recognize our agency. Okay. You're on your own. You're not going to see a bunch of disclosure from us. You're not going to see a bunch of reporting for us. We're still going to help you through the process, but we have no fiduciary duty in the transaction. Okay. They're going to sign that. We're going to have that on file, and we're going to talk about, because every builder's different. We're going to talk about what your level of responsibility for disclosure or whatever is. Okay. And then they're going to close the house, and it's going to be great. You're going to get paid. The brokerage is going to get paid. Your clients are going to be happy. But you have to follow that process and you have to understand how it works. Okay. And you have to insulate yourself every time you have a buyer. You have to ask them and have that conversation. Are you thinking about new houses? Is that on your radar at all? And put yourself in that position where you're going to be able to help them, or you're not going to get paid. Okay? We've done it both ways, guys. We've processed, I think we did 5 new homes last year, right? When it was handled correctly, it all went fine. It really did. Agent got paid, everybody's happy, done deal. We also had one last year where that came up, right? Agent says to me, "Oh, my freaking buyer went and, signed a contract on a new house, and like I wasn't there. They said I'm not registered. They didn't even know. They said I'm not registered and blah, 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 blah." And I said, "Who's the builder? Where's the subdivision?" And yeah, the client went in without him, didn't register him. All right. And my answer was, sorry. Like, Sorry, there's nothing we can do, you know? So be careful and talk about it. Any questions about new construction? Damien, what do you think about new construction? Do you like selling new construction? No, I don't. It's a giant pain. Will I do it? Sure, but I will try and like steer them around. Well, what's your biggest uh, um, strategy to keep people out of new subdivisions and keep them away from new, shiny, bright, and fancy and efficient? Well, I'll answer that one for you too. Almost every new subdivision in our area carries a giant package of Mello-Roos bonds with it. Okay, and I'm talking about big money. Just go.
So, can you register like yourself for the client before you go there, or do you have to go in the office with the client? How does that work?
Oh, good question. Yes. Client says to you, I like I don't know, the Oakwood subdivision in West Roseville from JMC Home. I like that one. No problem. Your agent, will call Oakwood, JMC Home, whatever. I will register you and me, and I'll get you all of the preliminary information and bring it back to you before we go to the subdivision. Yes, great strategy. Good question. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. I happen to know firsthand there are actually some new builds where they will just flat out say, no, we don't offer anything to the agent.
Yep.
What do you do then?
This is slippery slope, Danielle, and thank you for asking. So, if your client really, really likes that subdivision and they find something they really, really like in there, I mean, you can't ethically tell them, don't buy it because I'm not going to get paid. You know, I think in that rare instance, we could lose a client and not get paid because they found the perfect house that they wanted. That particular subdivision didn't offer a co-op or a referral fee. I can't believe I said co-op out loud. They didn't offer a referral fee. Don't sue me. A referral fee, and it's just not going to work out for us. And that sucks. But it could happen. It does
Mhm.
happen. It does happen. So how do you keep them back to what I was saying? How do you keep them out of those subdivisions? You get to talk about Melrose. Let's talk about Bickford Ranch. Does everybody know where Bickford Ranch is and what it is? Bickford Ranch is out off of Sierra College Boulevard in what I think is Lincoln, but it goes over the top of the hill and backs all the way up into Loomis. All right. Any kids that are in the Bickford Ranch subdivision they go to Del Oro. They don't go to Lincoln. They don't go to 12 Bridges. They go to Del Oro High in Loomis. This place is massive. I mean, it's like Stanford Ranch when Stanford Ranch was just beginning. There's going to be thousands of homes. There's going to be commercial. There's going to be, light commercial. It's going to be a city in and of itself. Okay. The current Mello-Roos status for Bickford Ranch is $1,000 a month for most houses in perpetuity, meaning it's $1,000 a month forever. It's not a 20-year bond. It's not a 30-year bond. It's a forever bond. Okay. I've had several clients that thought they wanted to live in Bickford Ranch until I explained to them how that works. Okay. Any, I shouldn't say any, most new subdivisions, most new construction homes have some level of Melrose bond attached to them, and it's significant. 90% of the time, if you can illustrate what those bond costs are and you can find them a viable option that don't carry those bonds, you'll be just fine. Okay? You'll be just fine. Is there a crowd that just wants new for the sake of being new, wants the energy efficiency because of the California Green Building Code that a new house brings? Yeah, there's a crowd like that. And for that crowd, we just hope that they choose to use us and they choose to buy in a subdivision that offers some kind of referral fee, and we get to help them and we get to get something out of it. But like Danielle says, there are those out there that say, no, we don't pay any kind of cooperation. We don't pay any kind of referral. We don't pay anything. If you've got a client that decides they want to live there and, without steering them, you've shown them bona fide options that they don't want to take advantage of, and they decide to buy in that place that doesn't offer a referral fee, you're not going to get paid. It's the way it is. All right. Any other questions about new construction? Those are both really good questions. Thank you. Everybody understand what a Mello-Roos bond is and what it's for? They call them Mello-Roos bonds because they charge people in advance for the infrastructure and the improvements that they're going to build. Okay. So if you go to a place like Tree Lake Village in Roseville, okay, first gigantic Mello-Roos community in Placer County, right? It's got lots of parks and walking trails and running trails and dog watering stations and, landscaping and all this stuff. It's beautiful, right? It's what's Jessica call it? Utopia. Yeah, utopia. It's utopia in Roseville. All of those improvements are paid and maintained using Mello-Roos bond money. Okay. The builder and developer of Bigford Ranch does not want to pay for all of the parks and the golf course and the frisbee golf and all of that out of their pocket. Okay, they can't. If they had to, they could never build the project. They'd go bankrupt, right? So instead, they charge all of the homeowners $1,000 a head forever. And I mean, let's do some math real quick. 6,000 homes, $12,000 a pop. How much is that annually? Anybody really smart like Rain Man? Anyways, that big number, that's what pays for all that. Okay, that's a Mello-Roos bond. Traditionally, Mello-Roos bonds were 15, 20, and 30, right? So if you bought a new house and it had Mello-Roos bonds in Tree Lake Village and you were in phase one, it was a 15-year bond. After 15 years, that payment amount, that bond amount drops off. You no longer have to pay it. Okay. Bickford's not that way. It's forever. That ought to keep people out of Bickford. Not to mention that the $1.4 million houses usually literally have 5-foot lot lines, right? 1.4 for a house, it's 10 feet away from your neighbor, literally 10 feet away. Okay, 5-foot lot lines. All right, questions on new construction? Guys ready for the hard one?
Hey, Damien,
Yeah.
no more a comment, I guess, than question. But yeah, Bickford's doing kind of like what Plumas Lake did in Yuba County, where they're marketing themselves as not part of any city or community that's there. They want to be their own thing.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Yes, yes. I
So
think
they're
that
not saying they're Rockland, they're not saying they're Loomis, and they're not saying they're Lincoln, but they're but the zip
no,
code
yeah,
says
they
otherwise.
they literally say Bickford, like for city,
Yeah,
Bickford.
Bickford,
Yeah.
California,
Mm-hmm.
Bickford Ranch, California.
Yep.
I think that's funny. Plymouth
Yep.
Lake did the same kind of thing out there.
They
Um,
did. I think Bickford will actually build the infrastructure though. You're like, I mean, there's still very little infrastructure in Plumas Lake. They had all kinds of issues with that. I think Bickford will actually build it. They'll have a lot more money to build it.
yeah, with 6,000 was so 6 times 12, so $72 million.
Give or take. Yeah.
Yeah, give or take.
Yep.
Um, and then the other comment I had is that you're so right on the new construction too, and the same rule applies. I've done 5 of them, and then I had that two that I got cut out on. One because they're like you were talking about, they just said, "Oh no, we're not going to do it. We don't need it." And the other one was um, because even though I came in with them, my client was poking around online ahead of time and
They
asked for
registered
information.
online. Yeah.
Yes, in online, it's all about procuring cause, and they claim that they had my client first online before I brought him in.
Chad, I'm so glad you brought that up because I didn't touch the online portion, and you're absolutely right. If they go online and they want information on any subdivision or any floor plan or any whatever, they have to register. And that registration, you use the word procuring cause. That registration online will be held up as procuring cause and you won't get paid. You're absolutely right.
Yep, yep. Bummer. So now my conversation is, like you said, if you're thinking at all for new homes, and my listing right now, they're looking at new homes, and actually I had a repeat. So I actually talked to the sales agent and stuff, and they said, well, we actually have his name in the system already. I was like, dang it. So he walked in. I said, when you go in there, make sure you write down my name, that I'm your agent and that I sent you there. He said,
Yeah,
okay. And he did.
good.
But they still cut me out of the commission because their procuring cause was the online, which was time stamped prior to him writing my name in the registry.
You guys getting all this? Like, I mean, yeah.
So I
Wow.
lost 2%.
Wow. You got to be really, really careful and you got to have that conversation super early in the game because thank you for bringing up the internet thing and the online thing again, Chad. They could be like cruising through, builder websites, sitting in the passenger seat of the car and register without even thinking twice about it. And you're out. There's nothing we can do. And Chad can testify to that. There's nothing we can do if we miss that registration window. Nothing. Thanks, buddy. Okay. Uh, Anybody else? New construction, bonds, anything, any questions, thoughts, comments around that at all? Let's cover it. I look, I hope it never comes up, and I hope you just, all sell your clients. I mean, what do they call us? Oh, they call us resale agents. That's what people who work in sales offices of builders call us. Oh, you're a resale agent. No, I'm a real estate agent. Okay, that's what I am. But I hope you all sell them resale houses rather than new houses. But again, you got to know what's out there. You got to have the conversation. You got to stay ahead of it, just in case it happens. Particularly those of you that have clients looking in, Rockland, Roseville, Lincoln, right? In Nevada County, not so much, but Placer County, Sacramento County, it's a real thing. It's a real deal. All right, let's talk about home values. Okay. Home values. Um, I'm sure that either via social media or the regular media, you guys are seeing the headlines, and the headlines are that values are down year over year. Let's just call it 1.5%. Okay. That could get worse before it gets better. All right. Again, our markets are kind of an island. We're not as susceptible to that. Okay. But one of the things that's been happening for like a year, a little bit longer, and it's starting to rear its ugly head now a lot more often is evaluators like Zillow are coming down on their estimate, right? And Zillow, in particular, is a little more aggressive with the amount that they're coming down than others. Okay. They're kind of trying to hedge a little bit. That can create some interesting conversations. If you're like me and you send out a monthly, I think they call it listing valuation and KV Core Bold Trail to everybody in your sphere, you're going to start to get phone calls, text messages, and conversations about why the hell did you just send me that the value of my house was $700,000 when I know damn well it's $1 million. Okay? It's going to start to come up. The answer is home values are down. Our information is generated based on values from places like Zillow and Realtor.com and Homes.com. Okay. All of those portals have been hedging down on value, and that's why you're seeing that result. Okay. They don't really want to hear that, but that is reality. And I know that a lot of people don't want to have those conversations. And I'm a sadist, so I'm a little bit different. I love when people unsubscribe from my email campaigns because it gives me a chance to call them. Okay. I also love when they get pissed off about the home value that I send them because it gives me an opportunity to talk to them. Okay. And a couple of things are true. The first one that is true is what we described with the values going down on all of the portals. It's absolutely true, and that's part of it. But in my market, in the areas that I have people living, those values aren't always accurate anyways. And it gives me a chance that we don't need to go into that in detail. Why and when Zillow doesn't work, right? But it gives me an opportunity to talk to them again about why a Zillow's estimate might not be 100% accurate for their property, or why my estimate that comes through automated might not be 100% accurate for their property. And it gives me a chance to catch up with them, talk to them about how it works, and by the end of the conversation, make them feel a little bit better than they did when they called or when they texted. So do that, okay? Prep for that. Practice for that. What are you going to do when you get the phone call from somebody that's in your sphere that got your monthly listing report? I think that's what it was called. Your monthly home value report, and it was for less than you sold them the house for. Okay? Because it's coming. It's going to happen. Right? So have that talk tracked down. Know how you're going to explain that. Know how you're going to respond to that. Let's switch to the buyer side of the conversation. Buyer says, hey, I watch the news, I watch social media, I see prices are down. I don't want to pay any more than this for that. I think I can get a deal. Excuse me. I shouldn't have to pay list price. I shouldn't this, I shouldn't that, whatever. What's our response to that? We covered it a couple of weeks ago, right? The property matters. In some cases, they may be 100% right. Absolutely right. Yeah, that property's not worth $550,000. It's worth $500,000. Do you want to talk about how we would write that offer and how we would structure that offer to make sure that we could be successful? Do you want to talk about that, or are we just, kind of throwing spitballs against the wall? Where are we? Right? Yeah, I know that's what the headlines say. I know that's what the data says. However, this house has been on the market for 15 minutes. Here's how much it's really worth. Here's how much Damien listed it for. And here's what's going to happen. Do you want to talk about how we structure an offer to make sure we win that house? Or are we just throwing things against the wall to see if they stick? Where are we? Depends on the property. Let's talk about the seller that's just getting ready to go to market or talking about going to market. How do we bring this dynamic into that conversation to make sure that they don't fall flat on their face or get stuck on the market for 150, 180, 200 days? We have to introduce that data and say, this is the trend line, right? I understand that 9 months ago, you decided that your house was worth $800,000. Things have changed since then. Here's the current trend line. Here's what your house is worth. Do you want me to list it and have it on the market for 200 days? Or do you want me to list it, get the most that we possibly can for it, and have it on the market for 7 days? What is your preference? Because I'll go either way. Okay? Practice that. Understand that. Understand how the different parties are absorbing all this information. You guys are getting it, they're getting it too. You understand that, right? They're getting it too. And they're formulating opinions based on that information that may not exactly be accurate for Placer County or Nevada County or Sacramento County. Certainly not for a house behind the gates in Los Lagos and Granite Bay. Okay? It doesn't apply. Be ready to talk about it so that you don't end up with or study your way through it or not have an intelligent answer, etc., etc., etc. All right? Has anybody had it come up to where you've had to deal with it? I know Joni has. Is she still here? Yeah. I know Joni has. Anybody else had to have that conversation or had to have that kind of objection lately and deal with it? Nobody? Okay. Questions about it? Concerns about it? Concerns about the market in general? What was the headline I saw the other day? Real estate worse than it has been in 9 years. Okay. Anybody else see that one? Let me make you feel better immediately. Not here. All right. Not here. Ohio? Probably. Right. Arkansas? Probably. Right. Tennessee? Not a good place to be right now. Okay. But not here. Okay. Not here. So calm down. Take a breath. Understand that are we as healthy as we thought we were going to be? No. Okay. Are we much healthier and in much better position than probably what? Spitballing 95, 98% of the rest of the entire country? Yes, we are. We're very, very lucky to be where we are right now in real estate, geographically. Geographically. All right. Anything else? Questions, thoughts? It's 50. I'm going to get you out of here and have an enormous coughing fit. It's going to be awesome. All right. And if you don't have questions, I'm going to click the button. So anybody, anybody, anybody. I'm going to give you like 10 seconds. It's been a lot. All right. Thanks for being here. You know where to find me if you need me. I'm going to click the button in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a really good afternoon.